Next story, and this one was a doozy. And, you know, I saw this story come out, and it's a real tragedy in a lot of ways.
Right.
And it was pretty much universal. It comes out, and you can see Brett Renaud, and again, terrible. He's killed in Ukraine, covering this crisis, and
Loki.
It looks like Loki. No, it's not. It
looks like Loki a little bit.
It's Brett Renaud. Now, the narrative and the spin around this story is ridiculous.
Massive.
Redonkulous, okay? Yeah. I hate to even use that word. It's really terrible. But I have to give a lot of credit to Jordan Schachtel of the Dossier for smelling out the bullshit immediately. And the minute I saw this story, it came out like a week ago Saturday or so, maybe even 2 weeks ago. No, it was a week ago. It was the 13th. And I smelled something weird with the story. First of all, it started out at AFP, which is a State Department outlet type of journalistic, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
Yeah, they are a news outlet, but they're an overseas type of rah-rah, a very pro-USA, again, State Department type of talking points, CIA talking points. You'll see a lot of stuff aligned with pro-USA stuff, of course. And you see this story, and then all of a sudden it's out in the Associated Press and in Reuters, and the story rips around the entire world. And there's like one narrative, okay, that he worked for the New York Times and that he was killed by shell fire, and it's
right.
A story and a narrative is built, and a legend is built. And somebody even commented, I think it might even be here in the comments or somewhere on Twitter, about like, this sounds like, I hope he's not just like good old Shoe. Doesn't turn out to be just like good old Shoe. And I don't know how many people have seen the movie Wag the Dog, but they basically drum up sentiment for somebody who is trapped overseas, in this case is killed overseas, and they're building a story and a narrative with even a name that might be catchy, and it's trying to emotionally tie Americans to say, look, even journalists are being killed when they're in a war zone. Now, this guy flew to a war zone to cover this. So it's not like, he didn't know. But here's the story. So the tragic shooting was likely committed by Ukrainian forces, not Russians. Wait, what? How is that possible? So, as Jordan talks about, that it was reported in corporate press in almost unanimous fashion that Russia was responsible for his passing, even though no evidence had emerged. They had nothing, again, which was disseminated by Ukrainian officers at the crime scene. And they even interviewed the guy who was in the car with him. And you'll see that, and he talks about it in a way. Gunned down by Russian troops, okay? Reportedly killed by Russian forces.
Guardian.
Right? At a moment's notice, powerful world leaders and individuals routinely condemned Russia for the tragic death of the American citizen. You know, again, this was constructed. This was an entire narrative that was, they had this PR stuff all ready to go, everybody, and it happened within minutes. State Department spokesman, then you have the leader of the UK, the Prime Minister. Yep. There's just one big problem with that narrative, and it's that all the available evidence we have points to the Ukrainians, not the Russians, being responsible for the tragic shooting, which again is a tragedy. Now, why is that? So now, as it turns out, they had been contracted by Time magazine. The fact that he worked with the New York Times in the past, he was a freelance journalist. They wanted to use the word New York Times to get everybody emotionally tied to this story, because everybody knows the New York Times. Time magazine, nobody gives a crap about Time magazine necessarily. But the New York Times is a national treasure. You attack the New York Times, you attack the United States. Hilarious, right? So this morning, Renaud and his crew, which had been contracted with Time, were traveling through the outskirts of Kiev, and on their way to document the plight of the refugee situation. So, according to the Ukrainians, the vehicle came under fire from Russian forces, resulting in his death. And after he was killed, Ukrainian police and public affairs officials took videos and photos of his still warm body and posted the display on the internet for the world to see, which was disgusting. His body was put on display, they said, to showcase the indiscriminate brutality of the Russians. There's only a couple of issues here. So, National Police for Kiev one of the first, if not the first, Ukrainian official to accuse Russian troops of killing Renaud. Several other Ukrainian officials then echoed his claims, describing them as responsible. Still no evidence yet.
Right.
But since the initial PR campaign, compelling evidence, in addition to multiple eyewitness testimony, has emerged to tell a very different story to these events. Wait, what? Again, where have you heard this? I didn't hear this anywhere else really
Nowhere.
but here. This guy nailed it.
Yeah.
All right. So shortly after the incident occurred, a video was posted to social media with Renaud's body on display in the background. In the video, and I'm not going to play it, a Ukrainian soldier says the shooting occurred in the settlement of Romanovka. Okay, so what again, I don't want to show it. It's almost 50 seconds long. It's horrifying. But the location is very significant because it established that the shooting took place well within a swath of territory that remains within the lines controlled by Ukrainian forces. Now, it's possible troop movement shifted in the early hours, but there's no documented evidence of Russian troops being anywhere near that crime scene before, during, or after the incident.
Right.
The Russians have in recent days repeatedly shelled the entire area, but Renaud was killed by nearby gunfire, not shelling. All right. So, and here's a map of where the shell, where everybody is and where this thing took place. Okay, where they'd advanced. And you can clearly see that this is not controlled by Russian forces. Here, distance between the area of the shooting is 2 kilometers, and the Americans were even behind a slope, so it's rather impossible for Russians to be shooting them that way with small arms gunfire.
Yeah, mortars, yes, but that shit, no.
Right?
Yeah.
So another piece of information came out earlier this evening when the New York Times confirmed that the incident occurred at a Ukrainian checkpoint. Even more suspicious. All right? Traveled around the world. He was shot to death while filming in Ukraine. So here's what the Times reports, that he was shot in the head when Russian forces fired at his car, which was being driven by a local civilian across a Ukrainian checkpoint near the border of Irpin. Okay, this again establishes that he had been moving through Ukrainian, not Russian checkpoints, and that now here's where the most important piece of testimony comes into play. And it's eyewitness Juan Arredondo. And I think that you've been continuing to follow and share some of his tweets.
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh my God,
Yep.
yeah. He's there. Who was physically in the vehicle at the time they came under fire. He was interviewed where he discussed what happened. Okay, and he's highlighted significant portions of the interview. All right, colleague. Okay, so this is the guy again, 49 seconds in the hospital. I think I can actually play this. Let me see if I have volume here. Let's see if this works.
Tell me, please, what is your name?
Juan.
Juan? Where are you from?
The U.S.
Yes. What happened to you?
We crossed the first bridge in Irpin. We were going to film other refugees leaving, and we got into a car. Somebody offered to take us to the other bridge, and we crossed a checkpoint, and they start shooting at us. So the driver turned around, and they kept shooting. It's 2 of us. My friend is Brent Renaud, and he's been shot and left behind.
And how is he?
I don't know.
You don't know. You don't know what happened to him.
He was. I saw him being shot in the neck, and we got
behind.
split, and I got pulled into the.
And who brought you here?
An ambulance. I don't know.
So this is a critical piece of information because it rules out the possibility that he died from possible Russian shelling or a Russian sniper of some sort. Okay. He's by far a more reliable source for this incident. He makes it clear that the shooting came from the direction of the checkpoint. And the New York Times, backed by other sources, have established the area as a Ukrainian checkpoint. In addition to that, most recent maps of troop positions show the scene of the crime as an area that remains controlled by Ukrainian forces. So, in all likelihood, Brett Renaud was probably likely killed by Ukrainian forces. And again, it is tragedy. And may he rest in peace. And he was trying to report. Now, there's also a question of were there any ties to intel, and what else, what was he just reporting there? And I don't know. I don't want to speculate. I definitely wanted to put it out there because I have heard other people talk about it. But it's a terrible story. But Instead of taking responsibility, Ukrainians used his death as an instrument to advance a propaganda campaign against their enemy. Rest in peace.
I mean, I've been seeing a bunch of stuff from over there about people being like wrapped to like flagpoles and fucking beaten, and like they'll pull their pants down and fucking beat. I mean, it's just straight up like,
oh yeah, that was like for stealing a loaf of bread and a bag of onions.
There's
or
so
something.
many.
Oh,
they're doing it to like anyone,
right?
Like labeling them.
But again, I got
thieves,
into
marauders.
I got into an argument on Facebook today, which is that, and all they keep saying is this mainstream talking point that Putin is attacking the safe corridors and not letting anyone leave.
Right.
Completely ignoring the
Except
fact that the
I'm hearing
neo-Nazis are
Ukrainians
stopping people from leaving. Right. They're stopping them from leaving.
I'm hearing Ukrainians shooting at like at those fucking people too. Like, it's crazy. You know? Like, I don't get it.
Welcome to chat. Crab.
Makes no sense to me.
Oh my God. It's again, double standards, which great. Israel gets away with shooting, killing journalists, doctors. Some of the comments here are outstanding. Classic false flag up again. Okay, how long has the government been supporting Nazis? It's been about 8 years, actually. Ukraine is the ideal staging ground to produce this theater. Yeah, Sean Penn is not the only actor participating. Very droll, very good. And again, there are a ton of different comments. Jordan Schlackman, the Dossier, Jordan Schachtel, sorry, that's this reporter, this writer. I've been following his Substack for a while. Give him a lot of credit. He does excellent work. Subscribe to him for free and support him with a monthly sub if you can.